All right, so let's talk more about the manta ray, and let's kind of take this from a perspective of you're just stepping into a situation. Maybe you just saw a reel or a photo about the situation, and you're like, what's going on? What's a manta? Why is it in the Florida Keys? So here's just essentially
10
things to know about this animal. One, they obviously are endangered globally. Their population assessments are sometimes difficult to understand because of their global nature, and even what the Fish and Wildlife Service, even what Dynasty Marine have actually said, and what NOAA has said is because of the different regional problems with these animals, it's kind of hard to take it fully into account. It's hard to take all of that into account. Now, also, second is these are open water species. These are animals that need lots of room, lots of space. They have a wingspan of up to 30 feet nearly, and they do form large schools called squadrons. So they need that space. And then on that third fact is they have a social nature. Not always, but they will form large squadrons, social groups during mating and feeding. So solitary confinement of such a large animal like this is really, really detrimental. Now, fourth, Dynasty Marine is the only, per the AZA and the WAZA, which are the two essentially world zoo and aquarium associations, they're the only accredited one that has the ability to take manta and to sell them to aquariums. Now, five, Florida, through the Fish and Wildlife Service, through the Fish and Wildlife Commission, is the only state that has either a loophole open or intentional, however you want to phrase it, and we'll get into that. It's the only state where you can use their current system, get the special activity license, and get a manta ray. Only state. You can't do it off of California. You can't do it off of Georgia. You can only do it off of Florida. Going into number 7. We want to report, 7 is the fact of the lobbying efforts. It's not that Dynasty Marine necessarily used a currently open system or a currently open process and said, oh, okay, we're going to take advantage of a failure in government protection of the species, whatever. No, they actually were the ones to lobby and petition for this to be kept open and to allow for the continued export and trade of this animal. And we have all the documents here. Again, it's in the Manta files, which the folder is going to be in my YouTube in a link just called Manta files. Got all this stuff right there. But again, for number 6, the Manta, the ones that lobbied for this increased hole, this loophole, is Dynasty Marine. Now, number 7 is the fact that one of the things that is kind of striking to see in all this paperwork is that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service actually said when their review of CITES, when they were about to essentially this whole involvement with Dynasty Marine and essentially this whole process here, one of the things they said that is really striking, and again, this is their record of advice on export permit application. Number 7, one of the things they said is that because due to the information provided in this application, we found that the harvest and export of one specimen of oceanic manta ray will not be detrimental to the survival of the species. Now, this number 7, again, points to kind of a flaw in conservation, or at least by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Just because a species isn't, functionally extinct yet does not mean it's, quote, healthy enough for the trade of even just one animal. I have often said that the best time to save a species is before it needs it. Don't wait until we're watching the last 3 of them, roam around on some, African savanna in Kenya. The action for that, saving that species was 50 years prior. Obviously, in that case, northern white rhino had a lot of threats, and they're still working on saving it. So, and number 8 is that this animal, This one captured by Dynasty Marine off the Florida Panhandle. That's what that video went viral, went around the internet and Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Number 8 is that animal is currently in the Florida Keys, but it's headed towards Abu Dhabi in the Middle East for an aquarium. So it's being taken from Florida waters, being sent all the way over there. So it's a very interesting conclusion that the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission that manages Florida's fishing game would be involved in the export of an animal to not just a different state, not just across the country, not for a temporary lease, but for a purchase and sale to a private aquarium all the way halfway around the world in the Middle East. Number 9, right now, and it's September 5th, so there's about 5 days until we can expect that this manta ray will be hopefully either released before then, but it would be, if it goes by the Dynasty Marine's plans, that's when it would actually be heading towards the Middle East. They usually keep the animal, so bringing to number 10, they keep the animal there for a while, for 8 weeks, about 2 months. And this is actually outlined in one of the permit things where they're only given up to 8 weeks. This was concluded by, I'll have to find it again, but this is in the huge document here. This whole thing that outlines the permit, all that stuff. They're given 8 weeks to hold this animal down there. And both, FWC and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they argue, and with Dynasty Marine, that you essentially need a period of time for this animal to acclimate to some sort of captivity, because you take a manta ray from the wild, there are many animals from the wild. Take any animal from the wild, there are many animals from the wild. They're going to be very, very unconditioned. They're going to be hitting the glass, trying to jump out, what you'd expect of a wild animal. And so in this 8-week period, that's why it's there. It's essentially there just to watch it, just to see, if it can, be essentially inhibited. They need to essentially partially domesticate this animal. And part of that 8 weeks is informed by Dynasty Marine's past capture and holding of manta rays. And so those are kind of 10 facts to really just get out, what's going on, what's this animal, where is it going, why is it there? And hopefully we can, with legislative action, with, calling your representatives or letting them know, hopefully see this video, or also, getting the word out through media that hopefully this animal can be released. Because obviously this isn't it's a pretty simple case of, all right, why would Florida's Fish and Wildlife Commission even be involved in this? And why are they, wouldn't their main priority be to the conservation of wildlife off Florida waters and into Florida? Not for this. If there's a different entity that would maybe work with them to try to get this through, that's one thing. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, maybe. But shouldn't the commission in Florida be prioritizing the wildlife to stay here, or at least to have a good home and a good place to roam in Florida's waters and, anywhere in Florida? That should be the priority. And 2 is the fact that this whole thing could be the tip of iceberg for many other things. So we have to watch it. We have to keep a keen eye, and going to definitely keep you updated as much as possible. But again, all this is in the Manta files on my YouTube, in a link in the bio. Again, thank you. And hopefully we can get this animal out of there before the 10th.